Here, December through March, the average high is below 0 Fahrenheit, with the warmest month being December, where the average high is minus zero point 0.4 Fahrenheit.
Oh my god, so many numbers and none of them are positive for what I'm looking for. This video presents an amazing question. Where is the worst season in the US? Or actually, what's the worst season in the US? My friends, this is something that I would love to know your perspective. Do you think overall, I know this will differ from state to state, but do you think America is more extreme when it comes to summer or more extreme when it comes to winter? Give me your perspective. Frankly, I don't know at this point. Today I'll be reacting to where is the worst season in the US? My friends, this is a great question. I actually have no idea because summers are so extreme, but winters are also extreme. I guess I will find out in a second. Before I go into that, let me ask you for one thing. If you can leave a like, thank you so much. It's the best way to show support. Now, if you can subscribe, well, in that case, forget about it. You make my day. Have that in consideration. Link for the original video in my description and let's play it. Geography King. Okay.
Howdy, it's Kyle talking about what might be the worst season.
By the way, show him some support. We are going to start this from the beginning, but I actually love this channel.
Howdy, it's Kyle talking about what might be the worst season in the US climatically. We all have certain preferences, what we can handle, whether hot summers or humid summers, really cold winters or really snowy winters. So here I want to take a look at a handful of the worst seasons in the US to see which one might be the ones you can handle the most or handle the least.
Okay, I'm going to do a prediction here. Even if I think both seasons are very extreme, I'm still a believer that maybe America is more extreme in the winter. I could be wrong. I just think there is more states affected by the crazy winter than the crazy summer, but what I know.
What I did here is take a look at a couple of the worst summers in the US. So I'll look at a desert type summer where the temperatures are really hot, but it's also kind of dry. I'll look at a southeastern kind of swampy summers where it isn't quite as hot, but much more humid. I'll look at a Great Plains winter where it's just really cold, low temperatures, a lot of wind, and also a lake effect Great Lakes type winter with a ton of snow, although it might not be quite as cold as the Great Plains, to see which one of these is the actual worst to handle for a few months of the year.
Okay, fair.
I'm going to start off by talking about summers in desert areas. These are regions where you have just
regions like Arizona, Nevada, okay.
The highest overall temperatures. For the US, what's usually considered the hottest city is Yuma, Arizona, in the southwestern corner of the state along the Colorado River. In Yuma, in the summertime, there are 4 straight months, June through September, where the average high is over 100 for the month. And there are...
What? Well, friends, I know this conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius, and it's crazy. Actually, there is the Celsius right there. Oh my god, what the hell?
7 months.
So just to make this clear, I never end up dealing with 44 degrees. In this case, 112 Fahrenheit. No chance. Thank you.
Through September, where the average high is over 100 for the month. And there are 7 months of the year, April through October, where you have several days within that month well over 100 degrees. And so in some of these desert areas, you can get summers that just last a long time. Again, it can be 6 or 7 straight months of temperatures over 100, certainly well over 90. And to
it's almost the entire year if you really think about it.
Go along with this, it's almost always sunny, so the sun is just always pounding down on you. It's just relentless. There's often no shade to be found. If you're in the cities, you also have the urban heat island effect going on with all the concrete and asphalt. And it can be generally dangerous to be out in desert summers without sunscreen. Yuma is usually considered the sunniest city in the US, and between March and October, at least 90% of the daylight hours has sunshine. But it isn't just the number of days over 100 degrees, it's also the number of days over 110 or even 115 degrees. In humid places, it might hit 100 degrees every now and then in an extreme summer day, but it's really common to be well over 100, again, well over 110 quite often in a place like Yuma. And with temperatures like that, the fact that it's a dry heat doesn't matter too much because it's just so freaking hot. But
Well, but oh my God, so beautiful. But very few people live here, I assume.
one huge difference between dry and humid summers, so in this case a desert, at night the temperature cools down quite a bit. So even in Yuma, in those months where the high temperature is over 100, the low temperature might be anywhere between the 50s and mid 70s. But for these dry climates with these really high temperatures, it's only extreme heat for the middle of the day. It's usually about 10 a.m. to about 6 p.m. where the temperatures are really, really hot. So for a place like Yuma or even Phoenix, it really isn't any better than Yuma. As long as you can stay inside in air conditioning during the middle of the day in the middle of the summer, it's not that bad. But if you need to be outside and or the air conditioning isn't working, well, look out.
Oh boy, and we are talking about Phoenix, one of the most famous cities in America, right? In Arizona, I know is the most famous city, but even in America, I think everyone knows Phoenix.
Okay, so those are desert summers. What about hot, swampy, humid summers? And
So, do you guys think this is worst? The swampy ones, the ones that are very humid?
my example city for this category is going to be New Orleans. The biggest difference between a desert and swampy type summer is going to be the humidity. In a place like New Orleans, the highest temperatures during the summer aren't going to reach the same high peaks as they are in the desert. For
Okay.
example, there are only 3 months of the year, June through August, where the average high temperature in New Orleans is over 90 degrees.
Okay, give me a second just to take a look at this. See, this is not that bad, right? I mean, it's hot, don't get me wrong, but it's not that bad.
However, there are about 6 months of the year, May through October, where you are going to experience temperatures over 90 degrees. So, what are the big differences with having a really humid summer as opposed to a hot, dry one? For all 12 months of the year, the average relative humidity in New Orleans is over 72%. And in those really hot summer months, it ranges between 76 and 80% relative humidity on average. And when the relative humidity is that high, you don't get the evaporative cooling effect that you normally would get when you have sweat evaporating. See, it
Ooh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. So the water stays on you. So basically, I assume your shirt, if you go outside, you can, put water out of your shirt.
just stay hot and sticky and disgusting all day. But to me, the biggest difference between a dry heat and a humid heat is the nighttime temperatures. So again, for Yuma or other places in the desert, the overnight low temperature, even during the summer, is going to drop quite a bit. In a humid climate like New Orleans, the overnight low isn't going to be that much lower than the overall high of the day. And if you're familiar with southern summers, you know even during the middle of the night, it's pretty humid and sticky. And that's also evident.
Oh man, maybe I have to change my perspective here. Maybe humid summers are actually worst. Even though the temperatures are so crazy on desert summers, you know what I mean? But maybe because at least at night you can rest
Evidenced by the fact that in New Orleans
with the desert summer. Sorry, let's run this part back.
of the night it's pretty humid and sticky. And that's also evidenced by the fact that in New Orleans during the summertime, the percent possible sunshine during daylight hours is only about 60 to 65%. A lot of cloud cover, a lot of rain, a lot of storms, a lot of humidity during the summer makes the summers in New Orleans pretty gross. And the third place in the US I'm going to look at for awful summers is Austin, Texas. This is where you have
Texas? But isn't Texas also desert summer?
summertime temperatures really hot like the Southwest, although not quite as hot as Phoenix or Yuma. And you have
Okay.
summertime humidity that's pretty high like the Southeast, although not quite as bad as New Orleans.
Wait, so you have the worst of both worlds in Texas? Well, friends, Texas may be my favorite state in America, and I know I have some viewers from Texas. Can anyone confirm that the summer is really difficult? I was actually thinking, not anymore, by the way, but at one point I was thinking going to Texas in August, and everyone told me, André, specific you that have a baby, don't do it. Is not very pleasant. Um, I wonder if someone can confirm this still. I'm not going because I trust those people, but is really that crazy? I mean, let's take a look. Okay, it's crazy. And with humidity, yeah, no.
In Austin, you have 4 straight months where the average daily high is over 91 degrees, and 7 months of the year, April through October, where you're going to experience temperatures over 90 degrees at some point during the month. with temperatures over 100 degrees being very common in May through September. So not quite as bad as Yuma or Phoenix, but the relative humidity during the summer months is in the 60% range. Phoenix during the summer months, relative humidity is between 19 and 36%. So going back to Austin, during the summertime, the dew points are in the upper 60s, which is pretty humid. But I recently spent time in what might be the
Oh, beautiful America.
worst city on earth for the combination of heat and humidity.
What?
And that would be Abidjan, Ivory Coast. This place was
In Africa, really? Damn. I thought all of a sudden a city in Montana would appear. Okay, never mind.
combination of heat and humidity. And that would be Abidjan, Ivory Coast. This place was awful to walk around. I couldn't believe how hot and humid it was. I was there in December where the average high temperature was only 86 degrees. In fact, there isn't a single month in Abidjan where the average high is over 90. For all 12 months of the year, the average relative humidity in Abidjan is over 80%. There were days when I was there where the high might have been 87 and the low was 81 with a dew point of like 80. So if you
Holy sweet potato. My friends, I don't even know how that feels. I'm going to be very honest. Summers here are not desert type of summers, but I think they are dry for American standards, specific talking about the southern region, you know what I mean? But a lot of you guys tell me that is problematic.
ever want to feel the saying, it's not the heat, it's the humidity, check out Abidjan, Ivory Coast. So those are what I would consider the worst summers in the US, as well as possibly the worst summer on Earth, but let's take a look at some of the worst winters in the US. I'm going to start by talking about Grand Forks, North Dakota, in the northeastern portion of the state, not too far from the Canadian border. And winters in the Great Plains are where you're going to have the absolute lowest temperatures. You have that really cold Arctic air coming down from Canada that's blowing across the plains, really high winds. So from eastern Montana to North Dakota to northern Minnesota is where you're going to get the absolute coldest temperatures in the overnight lows in the contiguous US during winter.
Yeah, my friends, the thing about Canada is there is no good places in Canada. Oh my god, what I said. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. What I meant is there is always cold no matter what, right? It's north. It's cold everywhere in Canada. It's not like, for example, in the Midwest, you have sweet spots. For example, Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I believe, is not Midwest. But in terms of weather, have a lot of tornadoes. Let's not talk about that. But in terms of weather, it's kind of chilling, right? It's kind of good. But that does not happen in Canada. It's freezing everywhere, right?
I'm choosing Grand Forks because it's not that far from Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is considered the coldest big city in North America. In Grand Forks, for the 3 months, December through February, the average high is 21 degrees or lower, with it only being...
Oh my god. Honestly, I still believe America is a bit more extreme when it comes to the winter. I have no idea how this feels, my friends. Look at this in December. Minus 27. 27, my friends. Holy sweet potato.
16 degrees in January. Also, during those same 3 months, December is the warmest, with the average low being 4 degrees. From the months November through March, you'll experience overnight lows in the negatives on the Fahrenheit scale multiple times. And even into March, the average low is 15 degrees. And during the winters here, you might get a couple of months straight where there isn't a single temperature over freezing. You also have extremely high winds just howling across the plains during the winter. However, you don't really get that much snow. This isn't a very wet part of the country. The snowiest month in Grand Forks is December, which only gets 12 inches of snow. January gets only 10 inches. And in fact, there are only on average 48 inches of snow during the entire year in Grand Forks. So the northern Great Plains have some incredibly cold winters, but let's use that talk about snow as segue into somewhere else with some horrible winters. For this, I'm going to Hoton, Michigan, which sits on the
Michigan.
north shore of the Upper Peninsula on the shores of Lake Superior. And so,
How crazy Michigan will be when it comes to the winter. Let's see it, my friends.
similar to how New Orleans isn't quite as hot as Yuma in the summer, Hoton isn't quite as cold as Grand Forks in the winter, but there's a lot more snow. In fact, Hoton is one of the snowiest towns in the entire contiguous U.S. Earlier, I had mentioned how Grand Forks gets about 48 inches of snow per year, but Houghton gets 69 inches of snow just in January and about 208 inches of snow for the entire year. And
Damn, it still looks so. I mean, this is crazy. Still, take a look at that at the record low that are appearing here. I guess you can go by the minimum also, but this is insanity.
in fact, in November, December, and January, it snows about half of the days of the month. But the reason why you get so much snow here is the lake effect. So you can look at snowfall maps for the Midwest, and there's always a lot more on the east side of the Great Lakes than the west side. And Houghton, being up here on the shore of Lake Superior, has this giant lake to the north and
Yo, my friends, Florida, chilling right there with amazing weather.
west. But of course, to get all that snow, it also has to be cold. However, it's pretty balmy in Houghton compared to Grand Forks, with every month of the year the average high being over 22 degrees and the average high being below freezing only 3 months of the year. Although temperatures below freezing are certainly going to be common there, there's not a single month in Houghton where the average low is below 9 degrees. So in January in Grand Forks, you might have a high temperature of 16 and a low of -3, but in Houghton it might be a balmy 22 with a low of 10. But you'll be shoveling a ton of snow. Houghton is one of the snowiest smaller towns in the US, but the
Dude, look at the size.
snowiest big cities in the US are in upstate and western New York, Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. But whether you're in Houghton or in upstate or western New York, you're measuring snow in feet. So when you compare some of the worst Great Plains winters to some of the worst Great Lakes winters, it comes down to how much you can handle extreme cold versus shoveling a lot of snow.
Okay.
But certainly,
Honestly, great. This guy is amazing. Sorry, I have to say, this guy is amazing. This explanation that could be a bit in terms of extreme winters. I never knew this. That maybe a place with more snow is not as extreme, even though it's crazy bad. Don't get me wrong, but like he said, do you prefer to handle snow or do you prefer to handle crazy cold? I guess both are so bad, but what about Florida, my friends, in the winter? I believe people tend to migrate to Florida, right, in the winter, so I can understand why.
when it comes to winters in the US, Alaska is going to be the worst. The town of Utqiagvik, which used to be referred to as Barrow,
But Alaska, I don't think is a fair comparison, honestly.
is on the north shore of the state, right along the Arctic Ocean. Here, December through March, the average high is below 0 Fahrenheit, with the warmest month being December, where the average high is -0.4 Fahrenheit. And
Oh my god, so many numbers and none of them are positive for what I'm looking for. Look at the record low here. Okay, my friends, holy shit, okay, the America is so extreme when it comes to the weather. This video presents an amazing question. Where is the worst season in the US? Or actually, what's the worst season in the US? My friends, this is something that I would love to know your perspective. Do you think overall, I know this will differ from state to state, but do you think America is more extreme when it comes to summer or more extreme when it comes to winter? Give me your perspective. Frankly, I don't know at this point.
And even in November and April, the average high is below 12 degrees. And also between November and April, the average overnight low is below 0 Fahrenheit. And in fact, December through March, the average overnight low is under -12 Fahrenheit. But
See, I don't even know how that feels. I'm reacting to this, but I have no idea how, I don't know. I never experienced anything even that close.
hey, it gets super cold, but it doesn't get that much snow, only 46 inches of snow on average per year. So life here has to be rough, with even in October and May, the average high temperature is below freezing. And not just that, you have no sunshine during the middle of the winter either. So there's basically no sun in December or January. So you put
So I'm going to share a hot take that some people may get mad. My friends, hot take time. Hot take reacting to really cold weather. But the thing is, if you live in Alaska, look, I understand. A lot of people born there have family there and may love the place there. But my friends, they are Americans. They can go to the mainland and choose another state to live. Don't get me wrong. I think Alaska is probably the most beautiful state in America, or at least top 3, top 5. But living there the entire year, You really have to love the place, my friends, because look, if Alaska was a specific country, I understand. To migrate could be immigration is always a complex process. But they are Americans. They can go to Chicago. No, Chicago is also crazy cold. But they can go to Arizona. But Arizona then, actually, I don't know, will stay in Alaska.
Put all those things together, and the winters in Utqiagvik might be the very worst in the entire US. I did want to also mention one other type winter that is pretty horrible, although I don't think as horrible as the other ones. That's the winters in Seattle. For temperatures
Seattle, Washington?
in Seattle during the winter, it's not that bad. It's going to be well over 40 degrees even in the coldest months. And even the average overnight lows in the middle of the winter are just a little below freezing, which isn't much different than here in Chattanooga. However, what can make the winters in Seattle really bad for many people is just for how long
Okay. Well, he's about to say how long it rains?
it might stay overcast and gray. So again, for Yuma, the percent possible sunshine during the daylight hours in the summer is over 90%. The percent possible sunshine for Seattle in the winter is under 26%. The humidity is really high during the winter, at least 78%, so it's just always damp.
So it's kind of like London, you know.
At least 14 inches of rain every month between October and April, and over 18 inches of rain November through January. So for many people, the winters in Seattle or perhaps the Canadian West Coast would be the worst possible winters because you see so little sunshine.
Damn, such a beautiful city. Sorry. I have to get better at this type of stuff. I keep losing focus when I'm reacting to videos that show America, but okay.
The Canadian West Coast would be the worst possible winters because you see so little sunshine. So you can go to Grand Forks in January, it might be minus 10 degrees, but the sun is shining brightly above you. So if you're someone that suffers from seasonal affective disorder, then Seattle might be a pretty awful place for you to live, and it gets even worse going up the Canadian West Coast. And the cloudiest town in the overall US is Cold Bay, Alaska in the Aleutian Islands. There's an average of 304 overcast days per year.
Okay. But before we go into this, actually, I thought the argument about Seattle was really good. And I also would love to know your perspective because it's even if it's cold, yeah, if you see, you know, the sun, beautiful blue sky, even if you are freezing, but it gives you some type of motivation, you know, if you're like, okay, things will get better. But if it's still cold, even though not that cold, but no sun, everyone is kind of depressed because when you don't see sun, I feel like people get a bit more depressed. Yeah, they can be really rough winter.
And certainly once you get up into the Northwest Territories and Nunavut in Canada or central and northern Siberia and Russia, the winters can get a lot worse than what we have in the contiguous US. But nonetheless, the northern Great Plains and lake effect side of the Great Lakes winters are pretty awful. So that was my look at the worst seasons in the US.
What the hell is this map, my friends?
And for me, I can handle the more drier type climates, either the dry hot summers or the dry colder winters as opposed to the hot humid summers and the really snowy winters. But if you want to experience the absolute worst, you can check out right here the coast of Ivory Coast. It's really bad, but this is a beautiful map. It's a Mirrorway map, so you'll see the link for these in the description of my videos. You can click the link for a nice discount. But yeah, really cool maps like this. You can just see the place in the world with some of the worst actual summer type temperatures. But yeah, we all have different preferences. So let me know what you think is the worst, what kind of summers or winters you can handle the most or least. But if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up to let me know you approve, and subscribe to this channel if you're interested in learning more about geography from a nerd. But yeah, thanks for watching. Geography King signing out.
Okay, thank you
I'd
so
like
much,
to give a special thanks to my superior.
Show him all the support. That said, my friends, actually, this is for the ones that are watching until the end. Very few people I know, but still. Leave me the number one if you prefer to live in a place that, look, yeah, the summer is awful, but I can handle. Or if you prefer to live in a place that, yeah, the winter is crazy, but I can handle. Basically, if you are a winter person or a summer person, one for summer, two for winter. I would love to, and I take a look at most comments. So that said, thank you so much for watching, my friends. Really means a lot. You guys end up staying until the end. See you guys in the next one.